This episode is sponsored by Bigger Bash, Bigger City's 25th anniversary celebration in Las Vegas this year, September 6th through September 8th at the Palms Casino. Tickets are on sale now, and we'll hope to see you there. Hello, and welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name is Michael Willer. I'm a chubby chaser, and today I'm a caffeinated coffee boy, and it's especially good when somebody else makes it for you, which was the case for me because my partner Michael made me some Vietnamese coffee, which is fucking delicious. And I'm amped up. I'm jamped. I'm ready to go.
Most excellent.
Hey, my name's Don Marshall. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood. And now I'm sad because I only get hot drinks that someone makes for me once a month when we record at Dan and Trevor's. And Dan makes me some lovely hot coffee that's waiting for me as I come through the door.
Don, I never make you hot coffee. I make you tea.
Did I say coffee?
Yes. You hate coffee. I would never make you
coffee. I hate coffee. Why would I say coffee?
Time to do a third version of this intro.
Yeah. No. This is quite enough. I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser, and maker of tea. Just so everyone knows, I do make coffee and I make tea. I'm versatile like that.
And he's great at both.
I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and I'm a coffee boy on the streets and a tea boy in the sheets.
That sounds filthy.
It's because of the tea bags, Don.
Yeah.
Wow.
We do it all kinds of ways.
We got there in the end, everybody. Good job. Well. Sorry. Welcome to the show.
Back to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, dear listener. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah. Thank you to our Patreon supporters on Patreon. Thanks very much for supporting the show, for helping us to pay for things like Riverside so that we can do this. We would like to thank our sponsor, Bigger Bash. I know it says it in the intro every episode, but we don't hear the intro when we actually record the episode. So I'm going to say it again, September 6th to September 8th. We're going to have a presence there. We're still planning some cool things with the event. To be determined, we'll announce probably closer to the event. But thank you for sponsoring the episode.
Thank you to Big Fig Mattress for helping us keep the show on the air.
Also, just so you guys know, Big Fig's still running their Memorial Day sale, which is $500 off. So if there's a time to do it, now's the time. If you go to our website, bigfatgaypod.com, there is a direct referral link on our partners page. You can help the show out by giving us a little kickback and also get your discount for a mattress.
And thank you to Bearskin. If you use our promo code BigFatGayPod, you get 15% off lots of lovely stuff at Bearskin.
Underwear and shorts and summary items.
Michael, play us into pop culture.
Let's do it.
A little jazz, a little groove, a little Bridgerton.
Oh my God, this is my favorite thing in
the
the
new
world.
season of Bridgerton is coming out, and ABC News had an interview with Nicola Coughlan talking about the new season and how her character is at the center, and just kind of talking about she's applauding body positivity for the curvy girls.
Yeah, she's an actress. I mean, that's obvious. She's, I guess, Hollywood fat. Hollywood.
Oh,
fat.
she's fat.
Yeah, she's fat.
I think she's America fat.
Yeah, and she's gorgeous. And this, particularly in this new season of the show, there's a scene that she talks about in this particular interview where it's like an intimacy scene, a sex scene, essentially. And she got to talk about the process of doing that, which is really phenomenal because part of it was her sort of raising awareness that there's a role in the film industry. I don't want to get this right, called an intimacy
coordinator.
Yeah. Increasingly popular and useful.
Yeah. I actually know a few.
Oh, really? Yeah. I had not actually heard of this job before, but it makes total sense. Because, if you think about it, a sex scene in a movie or a show is essentially, two actors who are probably not actually romantically linked. And so you just have to sort of stand there and hear a director shouting instructions at you and kind of just fake it till you make it.
And more than that, there has been a history in Hollywood of abuse of especially leading ladies during these moments.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're basically thrown into bed together. You may have met, you may have read the scene together. As Michael says, people just have their own ideas about what would look good on screen. I mean, the actors are sort of like, well, I just thought I'd kiss her a lot. And she's like, what was this tongue coming? And so an intimacy coordinator basically sets the stage and discusses independently and together with the actors and with the director what they're trying to achieve, how they're going to do that. They choreograph moves to a certain extent, to the extent the actors want it to be choreographed. Where do hands go? Where do lips go? Mm-hmm. And it's a really great thing for everybody. And why we're talking about this on our podcast is because Bridgerton has featured this wonderful plus size actress in the center of their season, and she has a romantic relationship with a straight size guy, and so that's been raising all sorts of eyebrows, probably for good and bad because it's the internet. But it's just wonderful to see this as like, oh yeah, she's fat, he's not, they're hot.
And they have a sex scene together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like having that intimacy coordinator is especially important. I don't know about this actress in particular. I'm not talking about her, but when I was acting, I was not prepared to have a sex scene in front of a camera or on stage. That was something I was never expecting because of the roles I was up for. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So to come from a background where you probably never expected to have intimacy on camera, that can be especially helpful.
Yeah.
There was there's been a lot of, press obviously leading up to the premiere, but there was another interview with Nicola and Luke Newton, who plays her love interest, kind of talking about going through these love scenes and how I guess there were a couple takes where they broke furniture in the love scenes, which is,
intentionally or unintentionally?
I think unintentionally. I think just because of the throes of passion, which,
the vigorousness.
Relatable. I think especially I'm curious if that is in the show, but I think that is the most relatable way for me to project myself into the romance of Bridgerton. Yeah. I love that her character's name is Penelope Featherington.
Yes.
I am excited. I might have to check out Bridgerton now. It's kind of been on my peripheral, and
this makes me want to watch it. I've heard.
Am I the only one here who's seen it?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh wow. Okay, it's actually very well executed. But I thought this spin-off series of Charlotte was interesting too.
Well, I will be having some little finger sandwiches and watching on my own, I guess.
This means I'm making finger sandwiches.
Yes. I got in my email this morning from the New York Times, recipes to make for your Bridgerton watch.
I'm going to be a busy little boy.
Oh yeah. YouTube has so much Bridgerton recipes action going on. It's crazy.
God.
I want to wrap with this line from Nicola before we go to the next subject, because I think it's going to be a good way to leave this before we veer on to the next unpleasant subject. But in the article, she says, I specifically asked for certain lines and moments to be included. It just felt like the biggest fuck you to the conversation surrounding my body. It was amazingly empowering.
I want to know what lines those were. Wow.
I am curious too. That was actually what first made me want to watch that particular episode. So what Trevor's alluding to is, look, we have our Oreo once again. We have good, bad, good. In Allure, an article by Nicola Dallison.
I think Dallison.
Not the actress we just talked about.
No,
different person.
Different Nicola.
Who is writing, the headline here is "Don't Be Fooled by Oprah's Newfound Approach to Diet Culture. This is why her so-called apology isn't sitting right with me." Which I have to say, I really appreciated this because when the
I
Oprah
needed
stuff
someone to say
came out,
this.
yeah, exactly. Like I couldn't quite wrap my head around why the Oprah stuff felt so icky. Like because we did the whole thing about, she's leaving Weight Watchers, but she's not really totally leaving Weight Watchers. She still works with that. So it's like, there's all this weird stuff. Yeah.
And this article is a specific kind of response to, because there was the stuff we've talked about before in the recent episodes. But on May 9th, Oprah did a 3-hour live stream.
Oh, good Lord.
In partnership with Weight Watchers called Making the Shift, a new way to think about weight.
Yeah. And
first of all, did anybody watch that at 3 hours? Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's Oprah. It was hosted.
It's Oprah.
It was, it was not hosted, but what's the word? Moderated by Oprah. So like she's going to pull an audience for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
So the thing is, the people that they had in this particular special, sort of on either side of the discussion with Oprah facilitating, are the Weight Watchers CEO, Seema Sistani, and then Katie Sturino, a body acceptance advocate who apparently went viral for addressing Weight Watchers' past attitude towards customers who failed to lose weight following Oprah's ABC special.
Yeah. The video that they talk about, I actually watched, and it's very interesting because it's Katie Sturino talking about the other Oprah special and having the Weight Watchers CEO on, and that in that special she almost apologized. So it was her talking about this, and then the Weight Watchers CEO did a video in response apologizing directly to Katie, and saying, you're right, I almost did, and here, like, I am actually sorry. Here's an apology to you.
Well, the thrust of the article, I think, is number one, Oprah doesn't actually apologize.
Yes.
Yeah. And
right.
and to the author's credit, she says, I'm not sure she was trying to apologize. She just said mistakes were made. I made them. Now we're moving on.
Right.
Which is not the same as an apology. And if I may point out, the other thing I would say is, like, something I talk about in my book is how science frequently gets it wrong, but science never says I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
We should probably establish, which the article does very well, what Oprah should be apologizing for, which is, in case you're not familiar, she's basically every aspect of her career post The Color Purple has been about her weight loss journey in some form or fashion, whether it was on her own show, obviously wheeling out the wagon of
the wagon of fat.
Yeah, like literally, which I didn't realize because I've never seen that, but I didn't realize that was actually, it wasn't just like bags of liposuction fat. No, it was like butchered meat.
Yeah,
with fat.
No. It was actually, and I'm thinking of the poor, PAs who had to do all the chicken. Like, somebody had to actually get the fat off all that chicken to put it on a wagon and wheel it out on stage. That was
right.
I think it was just beef tallow from a.
If you say
at
so.
any rate, this and her magazine, and as well as working with Weight Watchers, and her whole career has been predicated on many things, but really this is one of the pillars of her.
That's what it comes down to. Is it's hard to put a face on the weight loss industry other than Oprah. She has been the face of it since the 80s.
Yeah.
Well, I think my takeaway is, the wagon of fat was, but a year before I was born, but I still very much know it just from pop culture, and I think it being referenced in maybe other Oprah weight loss specials. But she is the face of it, but also, to me, she is very much the face of celebrities being criticized for their weight.
Yes.
Because it is Oprah is the face of celebrity fat jokes to me, because for so long it was just Oprah's weight is so up and down, or Oprah's so fat, or before I feel like Tom Cruise went crazy on her couch, that was very much Oprah is it's fat jokes. And she was a very public fat Black woman who was, I think she is the face of it, but also she was having these conversations, which were important, but kind of happening in a bad way, because it was really only happening in successful weight loss, and I have lost the weight now, so let's talk about losing weight.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I think I was able to empathize with her through even up until now. While I stand by her being the face of the weight loss industry, she's also a hero for basically taking the attacks, the slings and arrows, and using them to her advantage to create an empire.
Yeah. I agree with you, Don. I feel the same way.
I respect her enormously.
I feel the same way. Yeah.
But by the same token, her success damaged me, because of that endless stream of weight loss messaging that my mother picked up on and shoved down my throat my entire childhood.
Yeah.
She fed me more weight loss programming than any other source on earth, probably Oprah,
I want to read a paragraph in the center of this article, which really encapsulates, I think, the entire idea, which is, when I look past the seemingly body positive rhetoric and mission statements about quelling body consciousness in all of Winfrey's new specials and interviews, it doesn't feel like the point is actually to erase societal stigma people face because of their weight. It feels like it's more about erasing the stigma of wanting to lose weight and failing to do so by dieting and exercise.
Exactly right. Yeah. That is the nugget of this, I think, and this is a very long article. But I think what's centrally important about it is what you just read, Michael. It's not about erasing the stigma of being fat. It's about erasing the stigma of wanting to be thin and failing.
Yeah. And there's an assertion that it feels like an elaborate way for Oprah to kind of publicly justify her use of weight loss drugs. To be clear, we're not vilifying the use of Ozempic or Wegovy or any of those drugs. It's really the conversation around it and the idea that, that conversation should be between you and your doctor, and having Oprah basically working with Weight Watchers to help them create a program to get people these drugs in order to lose weight feels just truly stigmatizing in a whole new way, rather than the old way that she's been using. And ultimately that does, I think, warrant an apology. Not that she'll do it.
There was a comment on the video that they linked through for the Katie Sturino, the video with her and the Weight Watchers CEO. And it was saying, like, I know Oprah's been through a lot, but like kind of talking about everything we've said, that Oprah represents so much of weight loss being shoved on me. And I just really don't think that if she were still fat, she wouldn't be having this conversation at all. That like, if she wasn't thin now, that she would not be talking about the harmful, like how harmful the weight loss industry can be to fat people.
Oh, I see.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's an interesting point too.
Yeah. I mean, I just go back to, and I think I've been saying this every episode now, the Reagan Chastain quote of, you cannot say that you're against bullying fat people while also saying fat people shouldn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they've like slightly modified the message, which is like, you can be happy and fat, but you'd be happier if you lost weight. Like, it's now like slightly more subtle and insidious.
Maybe it is in some quarters.
I also just wanted to, before we move on from this, I just want to ask if any of you have read anything else by Nicola Dals-Assen, the woman who wrote this. She's a news editor at Allure. And her picture is very sort of like model, good look, like super thin woman with glam going on. But it's interesting reading her bio on Allure. She oversees beauty news coverage and writes Learning Curve, a monthly column that unpacks the complicated experience of accepting your body in a world that doesn't want you to. It's just very interesting that someone like that is putting that at the center of her identity in this magazine description, in this fashion and beauty magazine. Respect. I like that.
There's another article of hers. So when you click through her bio, that's part of this Learning Curve series, it's titled, "Was Fat Phobia the Only Reason I Ever Wanted to Have Long Nails?" And it's kind of talking about the stigma around having fat hands, and that like long nails make your fingers look longer, so they look thinner.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's a whole series of articles under that heading, the Learning Curve that she's created, which is really excellent. I mean, just reading through the headlines, there's a trove of things here if you want some positive reading. Absolutely.
Check her out. I think this is an interesting person to keep an eye on.
Yeah. All right. Let's do it.
Fat Watch 2024.
There it is.
Hurrah.
Change. Win. Eagles.
I love this story so much.
Yes.
This is maybe my favorite Fat Watch we've had all year.
This speaks to me so much. This has been me at almost every event I've ever gone to where I've had money.
So let's set this up. So Guy Branum, who is, he's so many things. He's an actor. He's a writer. He's a stand-up comedian. And he's a writer on the show Hacks. And he pitched not even a full episode, but like as he puts it, a C plot. Like there's an A plot, the main plot, a B plot, the alternative, and then there's like a C plot, which is a little thing that runs through it. And he pitched the C plot that they picked up and included, which was that the star of the show, who's like a fading star, has a fat fan who is getting militant about the fact that none of the merch for the star in the show comes in his size, which is a problem that any fat person who's been a fan of anything has faced, I'm sure. Unless you're building models of the Starship Enterprise or love a keychain, the merch don't fit.
They're always so proud when they carry 2X.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so proud.
So he pitched this, and he just said it was a wonderful experience to have them actually pick this up, use this in an episode. And he didn't think any more of it. But then for the wrap gift, when the show finally wrapped, everybody gets these little gifts from the producers and whatnot. And they actually gave him, I think it was a hoodie or a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
That was in his size.
It was in his size.
That's awesome.
I was
from the show Hacks. From the show Hacks.
Yeah.
So you got to get the parallel here. So the character, like he actually got to play the character in the thing he pitched, and he actually got the sweatshirt,
I like that so much because he breaks down the process of pitching this plot and then, the other writers going through kind of the different versions of it, and then being like, let's cast Guy, and then having him read the script, but then like, let's do a version where you just kind of talk about your experience with this.
Yeah.
And like,
so it was scripted. It was scripted, but then also improvised. And I think they went with the improvised version.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, and what I like about this is that kind of the whole thing is this character that he's playing can't get merch in his size. So he is basically pirating merch in larger sizes.
Yeah.
Which there's been times where I've like almost done, like I've been like, I want like, how can I, like, I want this shirt, but it doesn't come in my size. So like, if I like screenshot it and then like process it to like, get the DPI bigger, can I like find a way to print it? And like, can I just go to like find a screen printing shop to like, hey, I'll just give you like, 20x, like here's a 20 and like make this.
I'd like to give a sweatshirt you can't refuse.
Yeah.
I thought that so I read this like late last night, and I just like, it's such a well-written post. This is pulled from Instagram. And he wraps up with, this got me all verklempt when I was reading. He says, for some reason, making a TVC plot about all of this seemed more possible than ever getting a shirt or a coat from a show that I could actually wear.
Wow.
I cried.
Yeah.
And it's because it's just so real. Like it's so beyond what you would ever expect from a show to ever, like, they didn't need to do this. There's no real win in them for doing this particular storyline. So like the fact that they chose to do it and do it in the way they did is fantastic.
And it's funny to me how hard it lands for me. As soon as I read the description, like I was like, I'm living for this episode. I remember a period like shortly after college where I looked around and realized that all of my friends had t-shirts with my old shows on them.
Oh,
because I would receive that extra large t-shirt and just, all right, well, I guess somebody else is getting it.
Right.
I was, we were at a event for BRW last night, and I was talking to,
you might want to say BRW is Belly Rub Weekend.
Yes, Belly Rub Weekend. And I was talking to one of the attendees who is a production coordinator, and I think we must have been talking about this, just this guy Brandon Post and everything with Hacks, and he was saying that he'll be in charge of like gifts when production reps, and that like he's like, you don't know how uncommon it is for people to actually like think about inclusive sizing for stuff. Like it is just, he's like, I am one of the few people I know that does that I like make sure that people can get something in their size, or just be included if they can't get something in their size.
Well, one of the best ways to make sure that the sizing fits everyone is to never hire anybody who's fat. I think that's been a Hollywood.
It's a foolproof method.
It's a foolproof method. I think that Hollywood's been using that method for a while now.
Well, I think just with like merch in general, I mean, part of the reason we don't have t-shirts is like, I have found one site where we could maybe get stuff printed. I think up to I may have been 10XL, or I think it was 10XL. I don't think it was 12XL.
Well, but and then you wonder a lot of times, like you'll see a site, it's like up to 10XL, and you're like, yeah, but what is that really?
Yeah,
I went through this, like their reading their stuff. It is legit 10XL, and because it's like one or like small or extra small through 4XL is like just standard, and then like it gets more like the level of them being involved gets more specialty as it goes up.
Of course.
So like no one is really involved for like extra small through 4XL, and then like 5X through 8X, there's more like, okay, like a little more concierge and we have to do more work.
Yeah.
Be more involved. And then like for like a 10XL, it's like, okay, we need to have a team meeting to like get everyone out on the factory floor, and like we need to talk about how we're going to get this shirt
like
made.
A siren goes off.
I was just thinking that, like, I was hearing like backup sirens for forklifts and things like that. Which, I mean, how great is that though? Because usually it's no. Usually it's just like, easy answer, no.
I'm sorry. I'm just picturing an order coming in, all the flashing sirens, and just a team of seamstresses running to a fireman's pole and sliding down to the sewing room.
But I don't know. Thank you, Guy Branum, for talking about an important issue of someone wanting something and making it happen. And then, I don't know, sharing how much it meant when you got something for yourself.
Yeah. So which is universal, but often untalked about.
And kind of is a nice segue into our main topic.
Yes, indeed.
You got a gift.
Yeah. You got a gift. You want something. You don't know how to get it. And we're talking about kind of like, I mean, it's not really like fat specific things, but I feel like, we're fat or we love fat people, and you're fat or you love fat people. It's why you're listening. So when you have something on your wish list that is size inclusive, but you don't know how to get it, and we're putting it out into the universe, and discussing this. And this kind of came from a conversation with Michael. So why don't you set this up with your fat wish?
Yeah, my fat wish. And I have to say, this is an unresolved fat wish. So if anybody else has, any listeners out there have tips for me, please. Michael and I moved to this house we're renting, and there's this great patio out back, which it's covered, it's out of the sun, it's got fans and it's got lights. It's just a beautiful spot. And we want patio furniture. And the trouble is that so much patio furniture is just like wicker, like there's no way that's going to hold up. Or if you do find something that looks decently, like, as we've discovered, like nobody actually says this will hold up to, 542 pounds. Like they just say either nothing or it holds up to like 250. And you're like, well, but can it go high? Like, is that it? And they're freaking expensive when you get up to the ones that look like they might be able to actually hold up to some weight.
Yeah. Something that looks solid is more expensive. It's
because it has more material. Yeah.
Yeah. But it also, it's like the type of construction and like, how much effort do they put into making it look decent? And
exactly.
Well, if we want a love seat, is the love seat going to be big enough for a fat person and me? Or do we have to get like a full size thing? So,
or, maybe disposable love seats.
Yeah, just use it once.
Use it once, break it, and buy it again.
I'm just picturing the tissue box that you'd pull the next one out of.
Kind of like popsicle sticks. You don't save them and reuse them.
That's true. So we're still looking for that. We don't have it. And the thing is, like, we keep getting to this point of like, spring time, obviously Vegas area, it gets really hot here in the summertime. And so like, you've missed the train if you wait until springtime to get your patio furniture. Ain't nobody going outside, no matter what time of day it is. So we've got another like 6 months.
I'm imagining you guys going out with like, your lemonade, and you just finally sit down and you go to take a sip and it's just evaporated.
It just,
I can't help but hear this story. This is a bit of a digression, but when I was in San Francisco, there was a drag queen. She might even be famous. I wouldn't know. But her name was Patty O'Furniture.
That's cute. Yeah. Maybe we should get her to help design this area, because it's an unresolved problem. So what I ended up doing kind of as an interim like holdover solution was to get the what do they call the Hercules chair? The chairs that Trevor has.
Yeah, Hercules. Hercules.
Oh, do you mean the camp chairs?
No,
they're not camp chairs.
The black chairs that we have downstairs.
Oh. Yes.
They're
a black folding chair, right?
No, they're not folding. They're solid. They are
stackable.
Extra wide. They're stackable. They're extra wide. They're super padded. They're not patio furniture, but we're just putting them outside for the moment to have a place to sit. So it's kind of a stepping stone to actually being able to use that space. But
I mean, I think if you covered them, just because it gets dusty there and between intermittent tiny rainstorms, I think if you just covered them, they'd be outdoor furniture.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can use them as outdoor furniture. You just don't get that same kind of like cozy, like sit back in not a recliner, but you know what I mean, like a big, comfy piece of furniture.
Well, I think also it's just like it's fine, but it's not like, I don't know. It's the thing of like inviting people, like, oh well, let's go sit out on our porch, and it's like the Hercules chairs are fine, but I get Michael's thing of like,
yeah, they're not.
It's like it's not. It
and they're not aesthetically pleasing. Yeah. Like they're functional. They're extremely functional.
Yes.
So one thing I did see that might be useful, and the county fairs are going on again, so you might have access to some of these. The last time I went to the LA County Fair, I found this outdoor swing set that was made of solid. It was solid metal. It's not a swing set is the wrong word. Swing set is the wrong word. Think of it as a metal hammock.
Still making that's padded. This makes me nervous.
It was qualified up to 1,500 pounds.
Okay.
And if you sat on it, you were sitting in sort of like a cradled hand, and just the tiniest push would start it rocking, and it would just keep going.
Okay, I want one.
Right. It was really awesome, but it was expensive as all get out.
Oh, I bet. Well, how do you? It was for sale.
It was for sale. There was a guy at the county fair selling them. It was his own thing. The county fairs I found sell a lot of patio furniture, outdoor furniture and stuff that are gimmicky sometimes, but they look solid. So
there was a guy because it is a lot of these independent sellers. I think you're going to find success.
I think I know where you're going with this, Dan.
Yeah, you do. There was, I think it was a NAVA convention or one of Bree's BBW events.
It was also Bigger Vegas.
Was he there?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. But anyway, the guy sells basically supersized Adirondack chairs.
Yeah.
Where, if you know what that is, it's that sort of rough construction, rough hewn, but very solid, very heavy.
I think pool furniture that you would imagine. Poolside furniture.
More like Adirondack. So this is like you have a mountain cabin and this sits on your porch. It's made of very thick
They
wood.
also have other furniture too, but it is all very like, it's not aesthetically pleasing, but it is a very specific
It's a style. Yeah.
Because
Adirondack style.
Well, no, but even they're like indoor, it's very like craftsman kind of like some of their indoor furniture. It's like, it would go perfectly in the Grand Californian lobby.
Except it's not quite that bougie. If you Google Adirondack chair, you'll see it.
I do have a solution suggestion, not for this particular problem, but so Michael got one of those like extra extra-large. I mean, it's not actually a beanbag because there aren't beans in it, but beanbag style, like, foam, like large foam furniture things. And that thing is so goddamn comfy.
How does it differ from a beanbag chair?
It's much larger. So it's like 7 feet wide.
Okay.
And I mean, you can get different covers for it, but it's also, I would say it's not firmer per se. It just doesn't like splat out like flat as much as a beanbag might. Mm-hmm. So like
the filling is different.
He and I can both be on there and be comfortable, which is a little bit of an unusual sensation. Like it's not the type of furniture piece you would expect that to be the case.
We should look into this, Trevor.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll go into my, I don't know, wish, which is furniture related. Because I was kind of struggling because I feel like there's just so many things that just like as being fat that I like wish I had. But one thing specifically is a chair that is like a multi-purpose chair that is like as sturdy as my Hercules chair, but wider and just a little bit comfier, so I can like do my weird leg stuff on my chair. Like there's the whole there's like a meme about like gay people sitting in chairs weird.
What is weird leg stuff, Trevor?
Oh, is it like with one leg?
Well, like
tucked?
Putting one leg up, or just kind of like if I could, I would like kind of sit cross-legged on the chair almost.
Yeah, okay. Trevor is very, very flexible, unlike most people. And so he can sit in positions that even I can't sit in. And I'm notoriously unflexible, but he can sit in these positions that you would imagine some 120-pound twink could sit in.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Just a very weird, but I mean, this would be a massive, like this would probably be like the chair equivalent of a love seat.
This sounds like the chair equivalent of a bench.
Yeah. Well, but a very deep bench as well, because you see, anyway, but yeah, I get that.
But people, I think when they would see it, they'd be like, what is that? And then they'd see me in it and be like, oh, it's a chair.
Of course.
No, I think they'd be like, are you building a deck?
Yeah. I also think just like literally anything designed for a fat person. Because I feel like things are not designed for fat people.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, I think the key is it's sort of like the whole thing with clothes, where clothing is designed for this mythical 32 pants wearing guy or whatever. And then everything that is fat related is a modification of that, as opposed to going the other way around. What clothing would you design for a 400-pound person, instead of like trying to scale up something that would never work in the first place? It's that's what you're pointing to, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm a little vindictive in mine. Mine's a fantasy. I'm the angry one. It's fine. We all know it. And this is a wish list, so it can be anything, right? I'm wishing for something.
Oh, who's going to die, Don? Who's going to die?
No. I'm wishing. So I've had so many encounters, and honestly, like people have been better of late. But so I'm thinking of the course of my lifetime. People's lack of patience with the issues that fat people go through, the callousness that they can have towards our experiences, and just like being so dismissive of the difficulties that we go through. I want skinny jail. I want a place that I can shove a skinny person for like a week or a month or something, and everything is scaled down. So they have to experience the world the way I experience it. So that they have to sit in armed chairs that are always 6 inches too small for them. You know, that every time they have a meal, there's going to be a group of people sitting at a table nearby watching them with very judgmental expressions.
Or chairs with tiny spindly legs. Yes.
They'll be forced to go shop for clothing every day. There'll be one article of clothing hidden somewhere in the mall that will fit them. And the rest they're going to have to sift through.
Tiny.
Yeah.
No. All the others are going to be like 3Xs.
Yeah, exactly. Everything else is too big, you know. But I feel like it's very like when you describe the experience of living as a fat person to a skinny person.
They don't get
any one individual element you describe is sort of a so what.
Yeah,
right.
Well, because it's always it's met with just lose weight. And it's like, no, how about you just not be an asshole? It is so much easier to not be an asshole than for someone to lose weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of a theme park feel, like, you know, we stick them on rides and they have to.
I have to admit, Don, what I'm slightly afraid of is the thing that you see. I'm sure Michael or you could tell me the movies this is in, where like, you know, rich people go to a very high priced restaurant to experience poverty.
Yes.
And I'm thinking that like, you know, like fitness influencers would go to the theme park to experience what it's like for fat people and like take selfies there.
I feel like every time an influencer gets canceled for being shitty to a fat person, you just shove them in there for a month.
Yeah. It can't be voluntary. It can't be if it's voluntary, then they're not going to get the right thing.
It misses the point. Yeah. Because no fat person gets to volunteer for that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's fantastic. Episode title.
Yeah.
Done.
Skinny jail. Is it my turn? I think it's my turn.
Yeah. Go.
Okay. So, mine is not in terms of a product, but in terms of a service. And luckily I am seeing the beginnings of this. So that's very encouraging. Ooh. This is a terrible name for it. I'm going to call it I'm going to change the name that I had in mind, which is I would like an adipose concierge. Okay. So the adipose concierge is a desk at any hotel chain, ticketing agency, airline counter, and it is basically the person who takes care of the requests for fat people who need some sort of accommodation. Because here's what, as the person in the relationship who is usually in charge of finding such accommodation, it was really, I'll tell you, story time. It comes out of the story. So we were going to get tickets for the show at the Wallace, which is the big, wonderful Roadhouse Theater down the street in Beverly Hills. And I was saying my usual spiel of like, yes, we need accessible seating with one of the chairs that needs to be armless and very sturdy and blah, blah, blah. And going through my whole spiel and description. And they were like, oh, you need a bariatric chair. I'm like, what? Why, yes. How did you know? And he's like, oh yeah. And I said, have you heard of that? And he goes, yeah, since I started working here. He says, like, every once in a while, there's a request that comes through for something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's us. Cause we are the one couple that keeps asking for that. But to the point where it became a thing for them, like, oh, there are fat people in the world and they need this kind of foreseeable accommodation. Yeah. And the usual term is bariatric, which I don't have a problem with, except that bariatric comes from bari, which is the Greek word for pressure. And it's not so much the weight. It's just sort of, you need accommodation for the fatness. So it's not just the weight. That's part of it, but also the width and some other, and where it is and stuff like that. So I think the adipose concierge would be a lovely way to say that. And it also
clears up any confusions of referring to the fat concierge because
yeah, exactly. Are they fat? Well, and here's the other place. Like, if you want, let's say that Trevor and I want to take a trip to, I don't know, Paris, and we want to take Air France. So if you're dealing with an airline, an international airline, there is usually a disability desk. But again, they're used to handling things like wheelchairs. And you're like, no, I don't need a wheelchair. And it's not a question of whether the wheelchair can fit down the aisle. It's a question of whether my husband can fit down the aisle. Mm-hmm. And so, to get them in that headspace, that there'd be some sort of training. It can be a part of the disability desk if you have to have it. But then you get into the whole thing like, is fat a disability, blah, blah, blah. But I think that that is my wish, and I'm seeing it slowly materialize in the world because the world is getting fatter.
Mm-hmm. What a terrible time we live in.
I think something that is adjacent to that I just kind of was thinking of this outside of this topic, but a fat advocate for like a service of fat people willing to advocate for fat people who don't have partners.
Oh, I like this.
I like that
because
it's like Rent, a militant lesbian.
A fat woman I follow who was talking about having a bad experience with her doctor. And she said, my partner happened to be with me for this appointment. And he was like, that was really weird, right? Like that just was that was a very unpleasant appointment. Mm. She's like, he normally doesn't come with me to my appointments, but I think they were in a new place or whatever. And just that so many fat people like don't have a Dan or don't have, that, and that like it is a public service where people register to like, I'm going to go with you to this appointment and make sure they don't treat you shitty, or at least that I will be a witness to it. And I think a fat advocate could be fat, but I think there is something when a thin person is advocating for a fat person that is completely different.
It's a different listening on the other end. People listen to thin people more than they listen to fat people. Cause you're fat too. What do you know?
I always feel like if I complain on my own behalf that I'll be
John,
dismissed,
that you're just being fat.
Yeah.
No, I think, and Trevor, I think, there are such things as, I'm sure some listeners are going to point this out to us. There are such things as health advocates or people who go to bat for you in health advocacy. And I think that this could be part of that.
But I think it's bigger.
Or it could be a separate service because it's
we'll
so special.
Call this an adipose doula. The doula, that's what a doula does. She's your advocate when you're pregnant. She goes with you to your appointments. She monitors the health system.
Well, they're also
she champions your cause to the medical process.
Well, aren't there also death doulas too?
There are death doulas as well.
Yeah.
Well, but I like advocate because I imagine it is like,
More
I
aggressive.
picture someone like Michael Hobbs from Maintenance Phase. Like, I feel like it needs to be like a tiny, angry gay. Where like you can just like, he lives in your briefcase and just kind of like unfolds. And,
Herbie the dentist elf saying like, hey, wait a minute. You stop that right now.
Yeah. This has started in a different place than I thought it would go, but I'm loving it. Skinny Jill.
Yeah.
Adipose concierge, adipose doulas. It's be the change you want to see in the world.
That's right.
Yeah. We have a tip for today.
We do. So Big Boys is having a theatrical release in LA and New York. It premieres in theaters in LA on May 31st and then opens in theaters in New York City the following week, June 7th. Mm-hmm. But if you don't live in one of those cities, fear not, because on June 11th, it is going to be available to rent or purchase on demand. Mm-hmm. The Big Boys, of course, being the film by Corey Sherman that we have talked about a lot. I've shared a lot about it on Instagram. There's going to be some more opportunities to learn about it. And I think also some other ways to see it that we'll be sharing when we can. But it's put it on your calendars, people.
Yeah. Fat Gay Kid coming of age story. This is a no-brainer. Like, this is one that you want to support for sure.
And it is, for people who know me, it's so not my kind of movie, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
All right, Don. Give us your crazy bit.
Crazy bit.
That's what he said.
No, I did not say crazy bit. I said,
oh, is it not crazy?
It's not crazy. This one is a getting to know you bit.
Okay.
Since we're doing wish lists today, I find that the moment I often most wish for something is the moment I have something that is unexciting and could be zhuzhed up.
Okay.
So what I have brought today for you are 4 offerings of very plain items that each of us could add something to with our wish. Okay. So if you had plain vanilla ice cream, for example, what would you put on your plain vanilla ice cream to make it the perfect thing for you?
I know.
Oh, Dan, what is your plain vanilla ice cream treat?
I know what Dan's going to say.
I don't think
I'm pretty sure.
do.
Oh, maybe I don't. Is it weird? Because I know
it's weird.
I know the normal thing you would say. All right, keep going.
Well, normally I wouldn't have vanilla ice cream, but this makes it worthwhile. No, it's so this is a memory from when I was a tiny tot, and I was taken to Ming's, which is a massive Chinese restaurant in Palo Alto that no longer exists. And I, as a little boy, was delighted by the ginger sundae, which was basically vanilla ice cream with a ginger. If you know what marmalade is, think of it with ginger instead of orange rind. Okay. So it was kind of like what would you call it? A ginger preserve, a ginger combo drizzled over the top of the vanilla ice cream. Oh my God, that was so good.
Wow. Yeah.
You can do that because you can get like ginger marmalade or whatever from some British importer, or not marmalade, but you know what I'm saying? Ginger preserves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my answer would be pretty straightforward, which is like, if it's just plain ice cream, I like a textural difference. And so adding pralines, I think would be a really good like crunch. I'm a big sweet. I love sweet things.
What do you mean by like? I'm thinking New Orleans pralines that you would crumble on top of the ice cream. Okay, got it. Yeah, I love those. Those are great.
Yeah, candied pecans.
Yeah,
nice. Trevor, what is your topping of choice?
I don't know. I mean, I instinctively, just because I've seen it so much, it's like been a TikTok thing of like really good olive oil and flaky salt. But I feel like that's technically two things. So
no, that's acceptable. That's
I
acceptable.
wish so.
Yeah,
try
it's just
that.
your wish.
I would so try that.
Alternatively, I just like pour some espresso over it. Go to Affogato Town, baby.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I'm a traditionalist. I like hot, gooey chocolate, something hot that will melt some of the ice cream and make that third sort of between the hot fudge and the ice cream zone with some nuts for crunch.
Nice.
Our second item on our menu today, noodles. Plain noodles. There is nothing on them. They are flour. They are water. They are pressed. They are cut. They are boiled.
Oh, Asian noodles.
No, whatever kind of noodle you want.
Okay.
What goes on top of your noodle? I'll leave this one off. I love a spinach Alfredo with Italian sausage in there. Put that over my noodle. I am a happy man.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm pretty simple. I think some butter and some like Parmesan or Romano cheese that you can sort of emulsify with the pasta sauce. Sorry, not pasta water.
Pasta water.
Yeah.
Just that and maybe some salt and pepper.
Which is what Alfredo is based on. There's no Alfredo in Italy, but that's what it's based on.
Yeah, sure. Just simple like
somewhere
that alone,
in Italy right now,
amazing.
there's a man named Alfredo just in tears.
Well,
I am denied.
If we're taking this to Italy, like noodles is not the word to use.
Well, no, there are noodles, but there's
Pasta.
a definition of that. There's a definition of noodles.
Trevor, what goes on your noodles?
I'm kind of like Michael. Like that's really the most comforting to me. But then I haven't made this in a while. Have my pasta and do a sauce of like I can't really know how. I don't know how to describe the ratio, but like it's butter and tomato sauce, pasta water, cheese, a little bit of garlic powder, and then this wonderful buttery tomatoey emulsion. Toss out the pasta, more shredded cheese, some silk chili flakes, and then a drizzle of olive oil.
Yeah.
And
he has perfected this.
I'll admit, I wasn't expecting full-on recipes for this bit.
Well,
you with the three of us, you really should.
Do you not know who you're talking to? Yeah. No, and I should say, Trevor has asked me to make this for him, and I have refused because the ratios, as in many things with Italian cooking or old recipe cooking, it's really about the ratios and the quality of ingredients. And Trevor, because he's made it so many times and because he's perfected it over many successive iterations, he just knows the right amount. And it's like asking your grandmother, like, how much flour? And she says, half a handful. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, it depends on like your mood and the pasta shape. Cause I'll do it with, rigatoni or wagon wheels. It's my three fats pasta. you got the butter, you got the cheese, you got the olive oil.
Dan, what goes on your noodles?
I'm kind of thinking, especially as a contrast to these two, I'm thinking of more of a puttanesca. So I would, if I'm obligated, see, I'm not a big fan of what you're calling noodles or even the spaghetti like fettuccine or pappardelle, and that's not my thing. I would prefer rigatoni as my favorite, but I would go with, I'd have to figure out the right sauce. Maybe rigatoni. And I would use a puttanesca sauce, which would be capers and anchovies and a little tiny squeeze of, and of course salt and just a little bit to kind of, I would use maybe some mushrooms in it. Just a really tasty kind of, sassy. Yeah, sassy and umami. Yeah, sassy salt umami.
That sounds great. I'm hungry now, and I just ate breakfast.
All right, folks, for our final course today, there's more dessert. we have had our plain vanilla. We have had our noodles. We've had our bread. All of them kind of unflavored. Things that you can add whatever you want to. But this time, your palate has a texture to it. We have plain chocolate cake. What goes on top of your plain chocolate
What do you mean by plain? Is there icing?
No icing. It's literally just a chocolate sponge.
Yeah. Okay.
What goes onto your chocolate sponge?
I want some sort of chocolate hazelnut topping.
Yeah. That sounds lovely.
I want chocolate, and I'm really a fan. It's my Italian roots again. In Italy, it's almost hard to get chocolate without hazelnuts.
Yeah. Well, it's a great pairing.
Yeah,
I think I would go super simple and just lots and lots of chantilly whipped cream.
Oh, what makes a chantilly whipped cream? What is that?
Oh God, I'm going to get this wrong. I knew the answer to this. I think it's vanilla.
I was going to say sugar and vanilla, right?
Sugar and vanilla?
It's icing, sugar, and vanilla. Nice. I don't know that there's anything more to it than that.
Okay. Trevor, what goes on to yours?
I want, and Dan's going to kind of like be shocked at this, some kind of like caramelly pecan something.
Oh, a little surprising because he usually doesn't like nuts in anything desserty, but not always. He's quirky like that. I think you didn't. Usually, Trevor's go-to is yellow cake with chocolate frosting. So this is chocolate cake, which is again usually not his thing. With the caramel sauce, that's very Trevor.
But with pecan, like I don't know, I want
with pecans because you want texture, because you want
texture, and just like I want caramel, but I also like chocolate and caramel and pecans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to cheat a little bit on mine. I want a molten core that's on top. I love that. Gooiness, the heat going through the chocolate. I love it when something sort of infuses through the sponge. So that makes me happy.
I still have that. One of my favorite, like underrated movies is Chef.
Oh yes.
I love that movie so much. In the scene where he's like explaining how chocolate lava cake is made, where it's not about underbaking the cake. That is nothing. That's not what it is. It's frozen ganache at the center so that it melts by the time the cake is done baking. I have that like seared into my brain.
I love it. Then that's a core moment.
Yeah.
So dear listener, what would you put on your plain bread? Trevor, where can they tell us?
Well, we're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as The Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us a review or 5 stars on your preferred podcast platform. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com, baby. Maybe you just got out of skinny jail. You've learned from your ways. You're a changed person.
Oh.
But you made some enemies on the inside. I know now they're right behind you, so
watch out.